Alrighty. Hello, everyone.
Happy Tuesday.
And now, due to some technical difficulties, I'm running this on a computer and a phone at the same time, trying to keep up with everything. So tonight may be a little bit difficult, but bear with us because technology is like our government. It doesn't want to obey us, even though they should. And 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 um and by the way, I decided to put us on X as well with 1,800 followers. So hopefully we'll get some comments from them. And for everyone watching, uh, get a Human Lives Matter T-shirt. Yeah, this Johnny, he got 5 of them for me.
I mean,
And for me,
I might get fat. You never know.
Yep. And so we're gonna get a little biblical tonight, and it's gonna be comparing how the church, the lessons from the church, the liberal churches have been influenced by the world, and why we need to get back to our roots in Christianity. And I will make some disclaimers here. First, if you're any other religion, I'm not going to attack your right to believe it. You may not like what we say. You may like what we say, but here's Johnny, a non-believer, I believe.
Almost, technically, I guess.
Okay, but he's willing to be on the show with this, and he's going to be representing what a civil conversation looks like, even if he hates it, and that's fine. This is America, and we need the whole world to be like that. Second, we just ask that if you do have any disapproval, just say it in the comments as respectfully as possible, and we're willing to listen. And third, so basically overall, like the shirt says, we're looking to make your life matter as a human being, if you believe it or not. Now, me and Johnny, we met through Facebook, and I also have trolls on my page on what's really going on in America, on my Facebook page. And this is where these verses is going to come in handy. Basically, I want to talk about who is your neighbor. So a guy came to Jesus asking, what must I do to obtain salvation? And Jesus basically said to, trust God, obey the 10 commandments and all that. So then he's like, yeah, okay. So who is my neighbor? He asked. And Jesus also said, love your neighbor and all that. So so Jesus says to the man, after asking who is my neighbor, in reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. When he fell into the hands of robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, went away, and leaving him for dead. And then, so now, 3 people came by. A priest happened to be going down the street, the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. And now, the priest is one of his people, and the priest did nothing for his neighbor, for the person that is involved with the community. So, too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. So a Levite was another person that was one of these guys' people and did nothing. Now let's go to number 3. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. Now, let's fast forward 2,000 years later, and I'm a patriot. I love this country. I don't want to see it destroyed. So let's say a Christian, is in need of wants to support their business or their organization, and a Christian sees it and they do nothing to help it. And then, so let's say a patriot, American loving patriot, sees the organization. They do nothing to help it. But suppose a liberal, someone who wants socialism to, to happen, but they see the struggle of a business, and suppose they go on their website and they ask, "Hey, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing fine." And they say, "Well, is there anything I can do for you?" And I said, "Well, I could use some more sales." Well, suppose the liberal says, "Well, I don't want your product, but I will donate to your company." A liberal donating to something they disagree, with views that totally disagrees with them in every way, and they just wanted to do a nice thing. Who is that person's neighbor 2,000 years later? The liberal, the Christian, or the patriot?
Well, those people are very, very rare, as you've obviously come to learn. And because we basically make our decisions on who we're supporting based off of if they agree with us or not. And that's what I've seen has become such a big problem, is we only support if we agree. We've talked about people like Elon Musk, where he was the liberal savior for Tesla. But then as soon as he started promoting free speech with the purchase of X, he suddenly became the bad guy. Donald Trump, same thing. Until he ran for politics, he was such a good man. He was well respected. I mean, he was used as the definition of wealth. Even though he may not have been the richest person in the world, it was just, when people talked about wealth, it was always Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. But now we don't like him. I'm trying to think what else is going on out there. And again, also, we're talking about liberals turning their backs on people. We can do the same thing as far as conservatives changing their mind based off of somebody's personal beliefs. Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I mean, we basically just swap sides there. And one thing I do want to tell you before we progress too much further is that story you told. That's one of the few stories that will remain in my brain for the rest of my life from when I went to church as a child. And I remember that almost word for word, and the way it made me feel the first time I heard it. And maybe that's why I kind of operate the way I do is, this guy's own people just turned their backs on him because he was down and out. And it was the stranger that came along and made that man's day better and helped. So I don't know. I think we can all learn something from that, religious or not. It's a very, very wonderful story technically, because it's a sad story, but at the same time, it was a good ending to it, and it kind of teaches us, like, hey, just because this person isn't like us or we don't like this person doesn't mean that they are not capable or worthy of help from somebody, and we don't need to like somebody in order to help them. I mean, what's really funny is Quinn and I kind of started off arguing with each other, and here we are. We're doing a podcast every Tuesday night. But what the reason that happened is we had conversations. We talked. It's like, okay, I like this, you like this. Boom. All right, we found a middle ground. All right, next topic. I like this, you like this. All right, cool, middle ground. Next topic. Let's keep this ball rolling. That's all we're trying to do with this podcast. And he says I'm a non-believer. I'm not a non-believer by definition. I'm anti-organized religion because, in my opinion, it has become a business, and it's just they're going to tell you what you want to hear because they want your money every Sunday. They want those numbers up. They're viewing it as a business, and it's not a business that is being utilized for just the sake of making money. It's not even a business for the sake of doing good for your fellow human being. It's just they want you there so they can say, we have these numbers, we have your money, and they're preying on people in weak states of mind at their worst place they could possibly be in life, and they're selling a false sense of security and not the actual scripture. They're just sucking you in with their nonsense. And this is just my opinion on organized religion. This has nothing to do with faith. This has nothing to do with the believing or not believing in God. This is, again, they took something good, they took it, and now they're trying to capitalize off of it in a manner that is, honestly, in my opinion, hurting a lot of people. I have my reasons for my belief. And again, it's one of the wonderful things about religion is there are a lot of passages and a lot of words that are vaguely written so we can get what we need to get out of them. Words were written in a way specifically to reach into the soul of the human to benefit from it. And that's why a lot of people can kind of, twist words, whether it be the churches, whether it be the people who are anti-religion. They're going to use these words against you. They're going to use these words to tempt you. And quite frankly, I'm pretty sure Quinn would say that sounds very similar to a certain person in the Bible who lives a little south of the border, if you will.
You mean like the rich guy who wanted salvation, but he walked away sad because he had great wealth and didn't want to give it up, like Jesus told him to?
Yeah, pretty much, because he focused on wealth.
And let me tell you, the Samaritan in the story I told you was the most despised among the Jews. Okay, despised, totally hated by the Jews. But that Samaritan took pity on his enemy.
Yeah.
And see, if that was and then I had my first financial support in my business wasn't a Christian, it wasn't a patriot, but it was a liberal that gave me $30 as a donation. I offered her a couple of my T-shirts, and she said no. She just wanted to help, and I'm like so grateful that someone who disagrees with nearly everything I post on my Facebook page actually has that much love for me. In like those, so that gives me hope. And then I have you who bought 5 of my shirts, and so like you could have just bought one easily just to, not only support me, but support the cause of human lives matter. But you chose to buy for other people, right?
Yeah. And honestly, at the time when I made the purchase, it didn't hurt my wallet. And what am I going to do with my money anyway? I'm going to buy beer. I'm going to buy cigarettes. I'm going to, I don't know, buy some dumb thing on Amazon that I probably don't need. And I was like, Okay, cool. I mean, what did it come out to? It was like, I don't know, $60 or something. Like, okay. To some people, $60 will break the bank. For me, I'm fortunate enough where I can give $60 to something I believe in, to somebody I believe in. And that's why I did it. That's really why I did it. And I like the message. So why would I not want to share that message with people? And and plus it's like, hey, this message is really cool and it comes with free stuff, from me. So wear this freaking shirt because it's pretty cool. I like the message behind it. And unfortunately, we're just not getting enough damn traction with it. And I don't understand why. Oh, that's right, because we're not fueling division as we should be as the good Americans that we are, damn it.
And Charlie Cook now wears a T-shirt saying "American Lives Matter." Does that include American criminals who rape, kill, steal, destroy? To
Mm-mm.
me, they're not
No,
human.
no,
If
no.
they do
Those,
hard
those, pe-
crimes,
those people are cat food. We've talked about this, Quinn. They dice them up a little bit, toss them in the freezer, feed them to the cat throughout the week. That's I'm sorry if I offended you by wanting to feed pedophiles to my cat, but they're not human. They're not human. So,
no, the godless monsters,
mhm.
as Mindy Robinson would say.
Oh
That's
yeah,
and in audience, feel free to comment in the comments. We will acknowledge every one of your comments.
I mean,
Um,
I have the comments up just in case. I'm sure Quinn has them up on his computer. So they will be seen. I mean, not that we're overwhelmed with comments at the moment, but we do care. We want to interact with you guys. Chime in. I mean, hell, even if you're watching this from the What's Really Going On in America group, and you want to be on a Tuesday podcast, reach out to either Quinn or myself. Tag one of us, and we're going to vet you. We're not going to have some troll come on here because, well, Quinn's a nice person. He's the nice one out of the pair. But if you want to come in here and troll, well, let's put it this way:
well,
it would get flagged on YouTube for my language. We'll definitely put it that way.
well, I would say this: they can troll as long as they're respectful about it. If you can have a healthy, respectful trolling, by all means, we welcome you on this show and anyone else. Just as long as you're not being like some of the Democrats that have yelled at me in the past.
I
And
yell at you all the time.
huh?
I yell at you all the time. That's all I do. I yell and I scream. I go on my tism rants, and I would apologize for it, but no, I'm not going to.
Oh yeah, you put it. Yeah, that's yelling. I want to know what uh,
Oh no, you haven't
going
seen me
out of
manage that.
control is.
No, you'll there will come a day. There will be a topic where I just absolutely lose my mind on here, and just laugh, okay? Because it's gonna be funny. It's gonna hurt feelings, but it's gonna be funny. So it's gonna kind of be like a double-edged sword where, oh, okay, I'm entertained, but I'm a little scared.
So people will say, um, we're not under the law in Christianity, but I like to pull up this verse. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. In other words, Jesus came to live the life. God tells us how to live, and then Jesus demonstrated it in his life. And these are very simple things. Do not murder, do not lie, do not honor your parents, and honor your God. If like these now, God has his moral law, um, as opposed to the Levitical laws, which or basically dietary stuff and among other things. Like back in the day, I couldn't cut my hair. Today we can. Like the Levitical laws were nothing more than what you call it, cultural to the Jewish at the time in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we just have the law of morality, um, and 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 the church has came away from that very very far away, like super far, to the point where they end up doing the total opposite of what morality is, because they're making it up as they go rather than practicing what they preach. And so, and I think this is the stuff that the leftists are seeing in our political world, where they see the hypocritical message where they say one thing, but then they don't do another in the Bible while claiming to be Christians. And I struggled with this, for over 40 years of my life. The last 20 was attending churches and trying to fit in, but then it got me in trouble. Like severe trouble a few years ago. And I got to the point, but thankfully, a great preacher on YouTube, Paul Washer, uh, gave me scripture that I never even heard of before. And so I started studying even deeper than I ever had in the last 40 years. And I'm like, my goodness, there's so much in here that is now going to change who I once was, because I made, just like everyone else, I made morality about myself rather than Christ. And that changed me a lot. Like, you would have not liked me 3 or 4 years ago.
I don't
Okay,
know.
maybe like 7 years ago.
I don't know. I have some pretty questionable people in my life, so I don't think I would like you in the respect that I do now. Because I come at this as from a respect point of view, where I respect you for you're unapologetically you, and that is something that is so rare. And whether your reasoning behind it is something I agree or disagree with, or anybody else agrees or disagree with, is pointless. It's the fact that you are you. You do not waver from your beliefs at all. Nobody's going to sway you. And that just makes you a very, very strong human being. And to me, is I wish some politicians could, have the spine that you do, where no, I truly mean that. And, it's
I
not even because
agree.
I agree with what you're saying. It's because it's nice having somebody with a moral compass that I say these words, I mean these words, and I live by these words, and nothing's going to change that. Not money, not power, not popularity, nothing. It's just, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to speak because I have the right to. And if you choose to follow, my words, amazing. If not, cool, be you. And that's where my respect for you comes from.
Mm. Exactly, and there are, and I did meet a few others to where their Christianity, like they take the Bible seriously, but in most cases, I find people who will be very slacky about the the Bible, like they cherry pick, and the leftist sees that too, and I totally 100% agree with that. It tastes like vinegar coming out of my mouth when I agree with a liberal or a leftist, although I don't entirely believe, agree with the entirety of their argument. Like they'll say, "Oh, the Bible says you got to feed the hungry." Yes, you do. But the Bible also says if you do not work, you do not eat. And that reminds me of a story that I was told at a men's retreat, where a guy like converted to Christianity. He read the entire Bible, and And then he said and then he goes back to the guy that spread the message and said, "Oh, I read the whole Bible and I like the whole thing except for one verse. And that is, if you don't work, you don't eat." This guy was living on welfare. And so what did he do? He got a job, and him and his family was eating better than they ever had because he ended up working.
Okay. There's a difference between feeding people and just giving away everything you have. Because at the end of the day, like you just said, if you don't work, you don't eat. Do not tell me that's an inherently human trait, because I'll tell you what, the bunny rabbit out back of my house right now, if he does not go out there and do his little bunny rabbit things, his bunny rabbit job, guess what happens to the bunny rabbit? He either eats food or becomes food. It's nature. But, you know, like you said, the liberals will cherry pick, and a lot of Christians will cherry pick. People from many religions will just cherry pick what they want that benefits their argument. But don't say that we're not being compassionate enough because we're not just out there feeding absolutely everybody. You know, there is responsibility. If you were, you know, as everybody claims, you know, no master, we were not here to pay bills and die, which I agree. We were not put on this earth to just pay bills and die. But there's also responsibility. We are animals, okay? We are biologically animals. There's just no getting around that. Well, what did we do before society, before money, before language, for that matter? We went out there, we hunted, we gathered, we made shelter, and we survived. Okay? Just because we're a lot better off now, if you think about it in comparison, does not mean that any of that has changed. I don't feel getting up and going to work is somehow demeaning me as a human being. To me, it gives me purpose. It gives me something to feel proud about. You know, we've talked about this. What I do for a living makes people's paychecks. Like, if I screw up, they don't get a paycheck. So there's my feeding people. That's the way I look at it. I sacrifice my time and whatnot. Yes, I'm being compensated for it. I'm being compensated very well, in my opinion. But that compensation also comes along with making sure everybody under my umbrella is compensated. It's no different than an old tribe where, you know, there's a person leading that tribe, and it's their responsibility to make sure that the tribe is safe, fed, sheltered. You know, that's what it comes down to. And everybody has this weird viewpoint, like, ooh, work is demeaning. Well, then get a better job. I don't know what to tell you. Learn a skill. Go seize the means of production by taking out a business loan, starting your own company, and paying people way too freaking much money. I don't care. That's your right as a human. And stop taking religion and using it as an excuse to try and twist things around. Like, oh, well, Jesus was a socialist. No, he wasn't. No.
Nope.
I mean, granted, I would have drank his wine. I mean, that's a cool party trick. I don't care what religion you are or not religion you are. That's cool. That's really cool, in my opinion. Like, he gets a pass on that alone, not to mention all the actual good things that were done.
The reason why people call Jesus a socialist is for two reasons. A, going back to what we said about the rich person being told to give up all his money, but he said he said give it to the poor. He didn't say give it to the government so then they can give it to the poor. That was not his words. And that's what the leftists like to use. And they also thinking about Jesus when he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. And they'll use that as a way to promote socialism. And it's not socialism. Giving to God, giving to others has to be a personal choice, and it has to come from the joy of the heart.
Right. It's volunteerism. Realistically, it's volunteerism. And I'll tell you what, if I was not taxed at the rate that I am being taxed, I would give away a whole lot more money. I, I only need so much to live, Quinn. I only need so much. And unfortunately, a really, really big chunk of my money gets taken away from me by force every week, every year, every month. And I mean, the stuff I could do with it. I could give to more animal shelters. I could support more small businesses. I could do all kinds of weird things. I could sponsor, a family that's less fortunate than myself. Whatever. And it's a good chunk of money every year that I feel I could do a better job spending it for the good of others than the government does. Because I'll tell you what, there's still potholes on my street. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, we do live in a
that's
pothole state.
$5,500 a year of property tax. That's whatever we got in gas tax. We're not even gonna get into the income tax and all the other BS taxes that I have to pay. And where that money can be done or could be utilized for so much more and so much more direct things. Like when I support an organization, I hand them my money. I know that they're getting my money. Or I can just cross my fingers that it goes to the government and then they get like a percentage of my money. So instead of buying 500 pounds of supplies for an animal shelter, they might get 2 bags. That's government in a nutshell.
Absolutely. And I was gonna say anyone would do better than the government spending money, because you know what? They're giving it to themselves anyway, and if we live off the assistance, we don't get anything but crumbs.
That's one of
And
my that's one of my complaints as far as politicians using the Christianity card, mainly in their campaigns, is not, how many of them actually get to their desired seat and continue to live the life that they talked about on their campaign trail. No, they get their position of power and they immediately, like a light switch, they become a scumbag, all for themselves, all for their own wallets, all what benefits them, what benefits their donors. It's a vicious cycle, and I'm sorry, like I'm not a fan of when people run for any sort of political office based off of their religion, because we all know you're only saying it to garnish that vote. And I think that's kind of a scumbag thing. Now you're preying on the people you're claiming to support.
that's exactly it. And I mean, and it's basically like what the Bible, like what they're doing is they're reinventing what Paul said to be all things to all people. But when Paul said it, he said that to be like them, to preach the gospel. But what politicians do is they take those verses and be like them for votes. And then when they get in office, they benefit themselves. We got a bunch of Democrats who do their own thing, destroying our country. We got rhinos who basically help the Democrats. And so and it brings me back to, why are we not thinking of giving third parties a chance, or fourth, libertarians or the Constitution Party? I would support most of all out of everyone, and some independents.
Well, I'm going to just jump right in and start, pounding on libertarians, because I really, for the most part, have always felt like I align more with them. I'm a big fan of personal freedom. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. Taxation is theft. The Constitution is what it is. But they're so beyond disorganized. Like they make the Republicans look organized. And as much as we hate to say it, but we all have to admit it, the Democrats are really, really good in the organizational department. And they will, once they have their people, they will defend them tooth and nail without question. They will quash news stories. They will figure out ways of simultaneously attacking. I mean, I don't like that kind of politics, but, maybe we should learn a thing or two from them. And, they're basically running their entire organization like the art of war. Like, let's deprive our enemy of nice things. And that's what they're doing, because they're going to get one person to leak a story, then everybody's going to pile onto it, and then that person ends up either giving up or losing anyway. Whether what they're being accused of is true or not, it doesn't matter. They got enough people. They are playing that democracy card, even though we are not a democracy. We are not mob rule. We will never be mob rule. And I'll tell you what, the day we become mob rules, the day that this podcast doesn't really exist, because Quinn and I are going to be too busy out there, stacking things.
Yeah, well, mob rule is like the most dangerous thing we can ever have, because mob rule can actually take away our basic human rights, like our freedom of speech, religion, your home, even, and we have the right to these things when we work for them, and see, this is why I hate it when because the Bible is like, this is why I hate it when the leftists and the right wingers, a lot of the right wingers, misquote much of the Bible, cherry pick to get what they want out of it, rather than read it and study it for what it is. And there are some theologies that's, hard to figure out. Some people, like, there's an argument, free will versus what you call it, free will versus God chooses, and stuff like that. And that's something that I'm willing to study with anyone who claims to be a Christian, or anyone, or even anyone who's willing to learn, through scripture. Doesn't even matter if you're a Christian or not. I'm willing to teach anyway from what I understand. But basically, but the leftists, most of all, will twist it. The politicians will use it for votes, and it's like it's like we're all using God, and what, and I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I know what it's like to be used by people, and it sucks.
Oh, yeah. I've made a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of careers, and when they got to their new position, guess who was the first person to get pooped on? This guy. So that's why I was reading your post earlier about how, you have to kind of care about what people think. Only to a certain point. And the reason why I say that is, build yourself to the point where you're so strong by yourself, you don't have to care. But based off of the way your post was written and in the examples given, yeah, 100% you need to worry about what other people think. That could be your next job. That could be a home. That could be a promotion. That could be anything. It's just, I really don't like seeing people, worry about self-image when they should be spending time being their best self. Not worried about what their neighbor's doing, not worried about what the masses are doing, not what's popular on TikTok, none of that nonsense. Just go be happy being you. And one of the things I've understood, the people who are truly happy, they're the most charitable, they're the most kind-hearted, they are the most giving, they care, they have legitimate, a legit big heart, and they want to help people. It's not the richest person. It's not the guy with the most cars. It's not the dude with the biggest house. It's a legitimate good person. Because I'll tell you what, Quinn, I've met a lot of very, very wealthy people. And there's some of the grumpiest sons of bitches I've ever met in my entire life. It's like, ugh, what do you mean I have to pick up my $500,000 car today? Dude, you literally wrote a $500,000 check 2 years ago. And now your car is here. Come get it. If I have to, this is 2005, mind you, when this car was delivered. I'm like, you have a car that is worth 5 times what my parents paid for their house in 1984. And you're going to let it sit in your garage And then on top of it, which I did not know this at the point, over the next 2 years, you're going to pay this 18-year-old moron of a kid to put more miles on your car than you do.
Oh my
But
goodness.
somehow he was grumpy. Oh, no, the guy literally had like $1.4 million worth of cars in his garage, and none of them got driven. He had the car that he gets driven around in was sitting out in a driveway. That was, I don't know, $375,000. Dude was grumpy as hell. You know what makes me happy, Quinn? Coming home, cracking a beer, grabbing my shelter cat, petting him. That right there. Because I'm holding a physical being that was placed on this earth and to just get screwed with. And I gave them a home. I gave them a life. They got food. They have shelter. They have enrichment, all that stuff. And it cost me next to nothing to do that. And I'm happy as hell to do so because that's what we need to do. And I'm hoping to get to the point where I can do similar things to human beings. And, crossing fingers. But, that's what I want to do with my money if I ever get some.
Yeah. So yeah. So basically, this is the kind of world that we're living in, where people just don't practice what they preach.
No.
Because they, in the churches today, if I went to a Christian church today, if I pointed out scriptures that they hate, they will act just like a Looney Tune leftist in politics. If I did that, and if I did that with Catholics with the Catholic Bible or whatever, of course, if I did that with a Muslim in a Islamic country, I'd get killed for correcting them. But overall, this is exactly why. Because here's the thing. I've once read, I do not need Jesus to act like the world, to act like a sinner of the world. I quote this myself. I need Jesus to live holy. I need Jesus to live like him, to obey God. And most people don't think like that. And if you're part of the church, if anyone listens to this and you're part of a Christian church, I highly recommend rethinking from acting like the world to behaving like Jesus in your life, in all things, in every area of your life. It does come at a cost, and because you know what, when the political leftists sees us being hypocrites, they're going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And they play into it. They're going to capitalize off of it, and we see it every day. And we've gotten to the point where, honestly, whether they truly understand what they're saying, I mean, I don't believe that they do, but they're going to take the words from the Bible and throw it in the face of a supposed Christian based off of the way that they're acting. And a lot of times they're making a decent point, whether it's not necessarily correct, but it's close enough, if you will. And that's one of my big gripes about organized religion is it's turned into a club. It's turned into a business. And,
sounds like our politics.
Well, that too. I mean, honestly, everything's hand in hand. The reason, like I said, the reason I have an issue with religion, not believing, religion, is it turned into a popularity contest. There was a power vacuum, and I really do feel that when men realized what they could do with the word of God, and remember, we didn't have the internet, so we hey, this guy's got the book, man. I gotta listen to him. I think it's like the original form of government, and I think a lot of men used it as a manner to seek power and gain power over people. And it's even beforehand with the Roman gods and all that stuff. It's I feel people were taken advantage of, and it's something that could be so beautiful and pure, but somehow man has to come along and screw it up, just like everything else. And oh wait a minute. What was that thing we said? It was kind of like, oh, government. You took something so pure and good and cut and dry, just amazing, and somehow a bunch of morons in suits screwed it up for everybody. You see what happens, Quinn? You see what happens? You thought we were going to disagree tonight.
Yeah, well, it's amazing that we didn't. But someday we may disagree on something.
Oh no, we'll definitely find. We're going to find something just to prove that we can.
And now, well, maybe not that far, but I'm sure I'll come up with something we'll disagree with. But
oh
guess
no, we're going to do it on that 2 week from now show. That's what we're going to do it. That's what's going to happen. That one's going to be a spicy episode. Tune in for that, everybody.
Yes, in a couple weeks, he did give me an idea, but I won't advertise it till Sunday of that week because according to this Wumble studio, I can only advertise up to 2 days ahead. I can't do a week. So basically, so yeah. So when we're teaching there's an old saying, do as I say, not as I do. And that's where most of the so-called Christians do to their kids. And then guess what? Their kids learn it, they do it, and they grow up. And then they imitate that and take it out into the world. And then we end up with this messed up world that we live in today. And this was the most religious country in the world at one time in the beginning of because people came to escape the death penalty for their religion in other countries. But now we became a nation more godless than almost more godless than China.
We are back to what the original people that came to this country were trying to escape. They were trying to escape, persecution for believing in the religion that they did. Because Church of England, that was the law of the land. And you know what? That's one of the things I feel we got right with the foundation of this country is we did not pick one religion to oversee everything. Now, do I feel we are a majority Christian nation? Yes. Are the numbers swaying a little bit as this melting pot, this great experiment continues? Also, yes. Do I think we need to, practice whatever religion we want to practice without fear of persecution? Also, yes. But now we've gotten to the point where we're picking and choosing what religion is allowed to, have a voice. Well, how are we any different than England that we escaped from? We may as well just, you know what, Quinn? Let's just, we're going to throw in a towel. We're going to vote in, King Charles or whatever moron's in charge over there. Sorry, guys, we screwed up. Bring back the tea.
Well, that's amazing that you said that because we became a country to where atheism is becoming more prominent because it's like, or if people are too fake to practice what they preach. And one of my favorite misquoted scriptures is Matthew 7:1, where it says, "Do not judge, but lest you be judged." Now, that would be like you having a kid right now, maybe they're 6, 7 years old, and as you're smoking, you're telling your kid not to smoke, to start smoking.
That was me growing up. That's actually really funny. I mean, I'm a drunk. I smoke. I swear too much. And you know what? My parents all told me my entire life, you shouldn't do that. And guess what? I learned from visualizing. I learned from seeing it. Now, granted, we've talked about my parents. They were pretty interesting people. I think they did a good job with me. And I think a lot of, kids could have benefited from having parents like mine. They taught me to be honest. They taught me to work hard. Don't be a shitbag, I guess, to put it short. And I did not know their political beliefs. I did grow up, I went to church until I was around 7 years old. And guess what? They gave me the choice. My parents continued to go. My sister and I decided not to. Now, my sister is probably on the atheist spectrum. She's probably a little more agnostic than anything. I still believe. I still believe in a higher power. I just don't believe in, some guy 3 blocks away telling me what I'm supposed to think. Because if I want to be told what to think, I'm going to turn on, mass media and listen to, fake news. Because I'm too lazy to read and come to my own conclusion of what the words mean. But
So we should get rid of. So we should get rid of the Department of Indoctrination, then.
Oh, you mean where all those tax dollars I have to spend every year to simply live on this piece of property? Yeah, I really do believe that. Considering I have learned more about our nation's history from YouTube, from a fat drunk guy yelling and screaming. Then he's got his citations in his video description. You can look up anything he says, and oh look, it's correct. Look at that, amazing. And I've thanked my 9th grade U.S. History 1 teacher numerous times on this podcast. I'm trying to find him. I want to have him on here because, one, it's really funny because I would have thought, looking back on it, I would have thought he was like a red-blooded Trump flag-waving, conservative. No, dude's a typical teacher. He's a Democrat. But the way he taught history was so unbiased. It was just, this is the facts. And he taught it. And he did it in such a way where it was interesting. And I think we could benefit from that in a lot of different things. You can teach the true facts of something and make it interesting. You do not need to alter things to sway people's opinion. Because guess what? Some people are right, some people are wrong. I'm not here to please everybody. And if you don't want to hear what's true, then, well, guess what? That's your loss.
Well, they purposely
go out in the woods, hit your head on a tree, scream at the sky because I don't want it to be true. Well, guess what, Buttercup? It's true. So you got 2 options. Accept it or don't. Because at some point, you're going to get freaking smacked.
Well, they purposely make it uninteresting because they want kids to be so bored, so they make it easier to indoctrinate to believe whatever they say. And it's like, and you know what? Every American would save a lot more money by having no school taxes and sending them to private school instead. And
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and which means families would have a lot more money.
I mean, whether it be a private school, whether it be homeschooling, I mean that's why that's very much the foundation of our country. But then you're going to have people on the left, the quote educated left, your university bound morons that I got a degree, so I'm smarter than you. All right, cool. Go change your spark plugs. Huh? What happens when what do you do when you get a flat tire? I call AAA. The tools are in your freaking trunk. You're going to wait here for 3 hours for some bubba who gets paid $12 an hour to change your tire, but your Ivy League ass is too good to put a spare on your car and get rolling again? No. But then you're going to look at people like me. Oh, he's just a dumb redneck. He turns wrenches for a living. Well, no, I actually don't turn wrenches for a living anymore. I've surpassed that. I am now in charge of the people who turn wrenches for a living. And why is that? Because I took pride in a skill set that I had naturally and blossomed it into a career where now I'm the person everybody comes to and says, Johnny, what do we do with this problem? I never thought I'd be at this point in my life. But guess what? I took the gamble and it worked. Everybody else can do that. I never even considered going to college, other than when I got pissed off one day. I was like, you know what? I could be a lawyer. And then I realized, I'm like, I hate the way I look in a suit, and I'm really not a fan of the justice system, and I would be held in contempt every day. It would be like my cousin Vinny, 24 hours a day. You know, you know.
Well, you're doing more in you did more with a wench than they did with their gender study degree.
Well, I mean, I study my own gender every time I take my pants off. It's like, and I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm proud of it. I admire it. I love it, and I am happy with the wobbly bits that I have been given. I do not have any urge to get rid of them, and I really don't. Well, we'll talk about that. We're gonna talk about that in a future episode, but
Oh yeah, and
um,
and speaking of future, we only have a couple minutes left, and I would like to pull up this final verse. Um, for the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. Now, that means see, without grace, see, we got truth and grace through Christ, but that means we have a law to follow, and that's the law of morality. Both sides, left and right, even the religious people of today, are making their own laws which are not written in the scriptures, or they say we don't live under the law, we live under grace, but then where are you getting grace from? Why do you need grace if there's no law, if you're not breaking any laws? And that would be like um, me saying, oh, I need a grace from a police officer for not breaking any laws, or from a judge, I didn't break. It's like, what, there's no law, so why would we need a judge or the cops here on this earth? There has to be a law, some kind of law to obey, so then we end up, because if we should break the law, we would then receive grace, and it works the same way with God. That's why God put a justice system um, with what we call sin in the Bible.
I think you need to do a Sunday morning live. Not necessarily even on here, even if it's just on Facebook. Be the preacher you want to see in the world. I really feel that's going to be one of your callings. And the reason I say one of, because I'm not going to limit you to only one. People need to hear it. People really do need to hear it. And, there's enough of these other, so-called churches out there that do Facebook Live for their service. And all they're doing is doing exactly what you're saying they're doing. They're picking and choosing. They're rewording things. And they're not giving the truth. They're giving their version of the truth, or they're giving their selling point of the truth, if you will. Because, again, don't do it for followers. Don't do it for likes or view count. I think just do you. And I really think, even just if it was a 15 to 30 minute little session, just talk to the camera and talk to the people watching. And I think that's something that would be a sacrifice, but it would be a sacrifice for what I feel could make things better. Again, I'm not the religious type. I've said it, I'm going to say it again. I do not like organized religion. I want to be taught what the words actually mean, not what you think they mean, not what you think I want them to mean. I need to know the true facts, because right now it doesn't matter. You're going to a church and you're hearing somebody's rendition of those words and what they're supposed to mean. You may as well just turn on Fox News or CNN and get some talking heads variant of what they feel is the facts, and you're going to take that and you're going to run with it, and you're going to jump on the Facebook and you're going to type away like a psychopath, and you're going to spew nonsense because, well, my person said that this is the truth. Well, your person's a freaking liar, and they're only telling you what you want to hear because they want ratings, aka butts and seats in church. Don't fall for it. You all have access to the book. You can go out and buy one, and if you're a true Christian, you should have it in your house already. But
and let's not forget they can download Bibles for free on the phone apps.
yeah. I'm kind of trying to keep it old school here. I'm not a fan of the internet because get a hard copy. You know why? Because the power going out doesn't affect it. The internet going down doesn't affect it. The internet censorship does not affect it. Get yourself a real copy of the Bible if you want to learn what's in it. Do not listen to somebody else. In fact, don't listen to me. Don't even listen to Quinn. Read the damn book. The words are there. Read it, comprehend it, and live by it. I can't believe I'm saying this as a non-religious person, but like this is what people need to do. And it's mind-boggling to myself that you're going to pick and choose what you think is right or wrong based off of what your talking head that you decide to go to is telling you. No, be a human being. Be a child of God. Read his words and live by them. It's not that difficult, especially if, anybody who says, well, that's not Christ-like. There's a lot of times I can point out that, yes, what you're saying is not Christ-like is 100% correct. However, there's a lot of people that just have no idea what Christ-like actually is. And no, he was just that cool dude in sandals. He probably smoked pot. And, you know what? Everybody wants to talk about their version of Jesus. Quinn, you've seen Talladega Nights when they're at the table and they're talking about their version of Jesus. That's the kind of conversations we need to have, have fun with it, but also at the end of the day, like, no, the words are there. They've been there for 2,000 years. They might have some meaning to them and they may be correct. Just, you need to read them yourself. You're an adult. It's not bedtime story. Your mommy's not going to tuck you in and read you a passage. No, you need to sit there, make the time, turn your cell phone off, turn off the TV, and just read and learn and think about it. If you can't come away from that, that 15, 30 minutes a night and say, oh, I could do this and be a better human being, then you're not reading the words. You're just reading the words. You're not comprehending the words.
All right, everyone.
Sorry.
It was great. No, you're good. You're good. We are we are out of time, a little over time, but we thank you. We will see you next Tuesday, and we are out. Have a good night.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next week.